Hey guys, it's Forrest, and welcome back to another episode. I can't wait for you to meet my friend John Carroll today. John is the CEO of City Leadership right here in Memphis, and I think you'll see right away why the two of us became fast friends. Make sure you stick around till the end of the episode where John gives you his pitch about why now is the time and Memphis is the place. Let's get started. John Carroll, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Hey man, glad to be with you.
We probably should have done this like in the same place and space. We're just down the street, but it's okay. John's in the Crosstown Concourse. It's probably what, 5-ish miles from my house in East Memphis, maybe something like that.
Man, just a few minutes away. I mean, we could, if we started driving towards each other, I'm sure we'd be together before this conversation was over.
Yeah,
So
that's for sure true. 100%. Let me do a little bio here. I'm going to read some things just so I don't mess it up. But in case some of our listeners aren't familiar with you and your work, born and raised in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee State University. But I love the fact that you did say you didn't graduate with a plug and play degree. Like college was a vehicle to the next thing. Like, let's get out in the world and start making change. You spent some time in Texas creating, launching, founding companies, building companies, doing lots of cool stuff. Ultimately made your way back to Memphis, if I'm remembering correctly, 2000.
Yeah, for the first time to Memphis. Yeah.
For the first time in Memphis, not the first time in Tennessee, but back to Tennessee, specifically Memphis, 2004. So we're 20 years now.
20 years in this thing.
Well, Memphis is glad to have you back because as part of that journey, you are the, what do you call yourself? Founder, creator, birther, what are you of City Leadership?
Man, I think LinkedIn says CEO.
Okay.
But man, I've called myself executive director for so long. I am the founder, but really, like, I just think of myself as just like teammate, cheerleader.
I get it.
Key maximizer of all this other talent on our team. It's a stewarding a really fun responsibility of maximizing other people's gifts towards doing good.
I love it. I love it. I certainly our listeners and viewers across maybe the South and Southeast aren't familiar with City Leadership. Maybe even people sitting in Memphis don't recognize the City Leadership brand, but are likely to recognize Give 901, Choose 901, Serve 901.
Right.
Give us just the sort of, what is City Leadership? Why does it matter? How did you come to found it? Give us the quick intro.
Yeah. So was in the for-profit space, was trying to figure out how to do good, trying to figure out how to make donations and that kind of stuff, and realized that it was way more cost effective to just help people directly than to donate money and try to get those different sorts of pieces. Where our corporation was gifted was we had a lot of solutions for what these orgs needed. And so, so we started this org as a pathway to donate money and then activate that money towards employing people to help out other stuff. And that led to hiring full-time people, which led to hiring more full-time people. And basically, we call ourselves consultants, but really, we help the good guys do more good. We try to sit between, nonprofits and their fullest potential and try to help bring them to that space in that next season of work. We did that historically through a lot of projects. We've now kind of in this decade, because we started 15 years ago about now, we started in this decade kind of doing some of our own programs, basically catalyzing some of our historical clients that we did projects with and getting them to work together for some greater good. And so that's led to some campaigns that you were mentioning. We were just talking in a meeting right before I got in here, is that our campaigns collectively have about 400,000 unique visitors, annually. Our website might have 2,000. And so very few people. And honestly, like the leaders of nonprofits know who we are. But the people out there experience and are able to express their passion for Memphis and their curiosity for this place through the campaigns that we catalyze.
Sure. I love it. Yeah. I ask all of our guests this question. Do you remember how we met, you and I?
Heck yeah. Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes. Shout out Ron and Mackenzie.
Ron and Mackenzie Cohen. So Super Bowl Sunday. up at Ron's unbelievable movie theater room.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah,
I had an open seat next to me, obviously irresistible for you to sit down next to. And then of course, person I haven't met before, irresistible for me to say, who are you? What are we doing? Whatever. And so, yeah. And then I will say though, we met that way, but then you actually were proactively to pursue me later on. And so, and connect. And that's created a cool friendship that I don't get enough of. So,
yeah. Well, that's kind of you to say. The feeling is mutual. I was thinking as you were saying that last part, my wife Heather and I, in relocating to Memphis in 2020, one of the very first things we did was search out a few nonprofits, right, that we could make a contribution to. It was in the middle of COVID. There wasn't a lot of quote unquote getting involved, but
mhm.
where could we make some donations,
This
some
is an awesome
contributions,
proactive step. Whoever's
right?
listening now, just think about being
Yeah.
proactive to go find something you could get involved in. That's if you only learn that from this podcast, learn
Fair
something
enough.
powerful and impactful.
And so that was my entree to through Give 901 actually,
Mhm.
and we had that conversation at the Super Bowl party, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then I remember sort of getting a thank you note from you for a donation, maybe. And I was like, wait a minute, I think, isn't that the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
guy I was just
Yeah.
talking to? Like, how do we,
Yeah.
like, there is
Mhm.
something big out there that we are going to do together. I'm confident of it. We just haven't
I
found it
cannot wait.
yet.
Cannot wait.
And so as our friendship and relationship continues to grow, man, it's just cool. It's inspiring, all the things. So thanks for being here. We're
Heck
gonna
yeah.
dive in, and folks
Let's
that are
go for it.
listening are in for a real treat. So as you know, I got to start the clock.
Let's start the clock,
1,000
baby.
seconds. It goes really, really quick. But let's start it. Let's dive in and see what happens.
Welcome to 1000 Seconds, a video series presented by 1000 Feathers and hosted by the firm's co-founder and president, Forrest Alton. In this first season, Forrest sits down with changemakers, leaders, and visionaries who are doing transformative work at the local, state, and national level. This series will give you a unique view and front row seat to bold and courageous conversations with people that Forrest has learned from and worked with along the way. So set your timers, 1000 seconds starts now.
I think of John Carroll, I think of words like leader, creator, entrepreneur, problem solver, right?
Mm.
All of the things, but one thing that's universally true, no matter what descriptor you want to use, you are able to create and craft a vision, right? You can sort of predict the future.
Mm.
I've seen that in just early conversations you and I have had. My question for you though is, it's one thing for somebody to create a vision or have a vision. It's another thing to be able to articulate that vision and get other people to rally behind it. Right?
Mm.
You couldn't have done any of this on your own and alone. Take me from not just having a vision, but getting others to believe in it as well. What does that take?
Man, that's a great question right out of the jump. I think, one of the things is that it takes, just to be really, really honest, is to be focused on the fact that the vision can be true and not everybody is going to see it, want it, need it,
Yeah.
comprehend it, all that kind of stuff, and not allowing those conversations to keep you from finding the people who are aligned with
Mm,
the
mm.
vision and they can actually take it and make it into reality. Because what'll end up happening is that if you have a vision, if whatever that vision is, you imagine that you need these 5 skill sets, and so you think about friends, or you're looking for talent, or you're trying to find people or whatever. And when you initiate that, if they don't see it, or if they don't agree with it, or if their vision's taking them some other direction, you can start thinking that your vision's wrong. And if that
Yeah.
happens to you, then you won't ultimately have the right conversation with the person that will actually move it forward with you. What ends up
Mm,
happening
mm.
typically to leaders, to be really quick, is that early on you have a vision and other people around you are so young, their career isn't developed, they're different kind of stuff. So whatever the first visionary is, everyone around you just agrees and says that's it. And so you think that having a vision and working with people is that easy, but then those visions actually, they may be really fun and adventure and with your best friends, but a lot of times they don't happen out because the people around you they aren't really bought into the vision. They're just bought into you, and you just happen to say that out loud instead of
Yeah.
this or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So So it either early on, and then, so if you can learn that lesson, it doesn't make you a bad leader. It might just mean that the people around you weren't, they were your best friends, but they weren't the people that could actually make it a reality. And then later on, it's, you could have a clear vision. You just got to find the right people aligned with that. And we just kind of always assume is that whatever we say, whatever we want, a third of the people don't want it, and a third of the people do. And you win something when you can figure out how to win the middle third.
The middle third, sure.
Yeah,
I've got a colleague that uses the phrase "run with the willing," and I was thinking about that as you were talking, right? Like that's the first third.
I'm about to make a hat that says that. I'm making trucker hats. You're getting the first one.
I love it. I love it. It's not my phrase in fairness, but I'm happy to amplify.
I don't want to know whose phrase it is, because then I have to give him credit. I'm just run with the willing.
Just go with it. Yeah. The extension of everything you just said, John, which is, our views on that align so well. But the other thing I love about sort of watching your work, again, as an observer, as a donor, as a partner, is even in your introduction, you were using words like activate, catalyze, mobilize, right? Like these are action-oriented words. So in other words, we're not coming up with a vision just to paint it on the wall, right? We're coming up with a vision to do something about it, to execute, to actually move forward. You and I have both seen far too many visions that get painted on the wall and go there to die, right? As opposed to, how do we go to the next step and actually get some things done? How have you been so successful in that process?
Yeah. So I think as you're, man, so many different angles of what you just said. But, one is that is realizing that the problems that you're going to pursue in the sense of this process, and like that is the work of making that vision come true. Like that just having a vision is not actually, like, the work's not completed, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's like having a game plan to win the Super Bowl. Like that doesn't make you a Super Bowl champion because you have an awesome game plan. Like the vision is to go to the Super Bowl, and then you have a good game plan or whatever. I think that what makes it a reality so much is that when that preferred future is fueled with the unacceptable present. And, in our consulting, we call it awareness, vision, which is this futuristic stuff you're talking about, strategy, courage, right? So but awareness is actually all the hard work. And there's so much awareness usually happening for leaders, they don't even realize. A lot of times people think they just had a random idea. It's really that they're just so completely knowledgeable about so much stuff that a vision just kind of comes to crystallization. But when you are really baked into understanding it is not acceptable since 1968 for the poverty rate not to change in generation after generation, and that we have to do something different. Like as you say all the time, that I've used it twice today. We're not just going to serve the problem. We're going to try to solve the problem. Realizing that serving the problem, for 52, 56 years or whatever is not actually making the difference. So we got to do something different to solve the problem. And I think that's what makes reality. That's what makes these visions come to reality and gets them off the wall, because good ideas are all sexy and cool. But if you don't go home at night just mad and passionate against the unacceptable present, you won't go create that preferred future. You'll just go find your jollies in coming up with a new idea for some other problem.
This is why we're going to do some work together, right? There are things that our passions are going to overlap on one of these conversations, and everybody's going to have to follow along or get out of the way, one or the other, right?
We'll find our third.
Right. What's I all that said, I know you're always looking out on the horizon, right? What's the next big challenge or two you've got your eye on, right? If you think about poverty, you think about Memphis, you think about the broader South, like what are the next challenges you're predicting we're going to all have to be solving together?
Well, I'll just take you to right now. I think we are seeing just the very beginning first fruits of the examples is that people are actually feeling like they have to do something, be involved, and make a difference. like, and not just the tip of the spear, trophy case, 3 to 10% of society that actually kind of, gets involved in that kind of stuff. But we are seeing a buzz and a thing where people are going, I'm going to have to do something. Like I got to get involved and I got to get to the thing. And I think what the problem that we have in that is twofold that has to be clearly communicated to that group. Is that one, we've got to make sure that we're not just leading with the need, but we're actually communicating how that little amount of time they're going to give, whether it's 2 hours a week or 20 hours a month or $10 a month or $1,000 a year, whatever it is, how that actually is a building block and is significant to making this bigger solution possible. Because there's so much paralyzation with people who want better because they don't believe that their one little thing is going to make a difference. And so we've got to do a really good job of communicating how they fit into this bigger cycle and realizing, accepting the reality of our humanity is that no one person's meant to solve it all. Right. Not all the problems of the world, but not even all the problems for one other human, and so they just doing sight words with second graders is a key ingredient. And that if you could do that, somebody else can do lunch buddies with our middle schoolers and somebody else can do field trips with high schoolers. But then the second thing is, and this is really powerful, is not just helping them see that, but we have to come up with systems that make it really efficient for their time. Because everything else, everything that's making money is efficiently maximizing people's time so much. And in the nonprofit world, we're not funded in a way where we can create and compete with the systems that are out there that are running on efficiency and everything's so much quicker. And this AI thing is going to even throw another haymaker in this, because we use so much humanity, which is good, but it is limiting time-wise to make it all really efficient. And so we've got to come up with not only the clear vision of how their little piece is a part of a big solution. Big solution is not possible without all the little pieces, but also how to make it really fast and efficient for them to go from curious to, starting to make an impact. And that's going to be some really smart people working really hard on making things really simple.
That's fascinating. We could do probably multiple episodes just on that. I wrote down on my I wrote down over here on my notes the phrase portal of entry, right? We're creating a system, but somehow there's got to be a door I can walk through. If I'm now ready to do something, like, don't make me search too hard for the portal of entry, right? Like, let's get to it.
Yes.
As I was prepping for this episode and doing some reading and such, I came across this phrase, and I think it's probably connected to this conversation. But you said in an interview somewhere else that a unique feature of a city like Memphis is the quote unquote frontline space available for those who want to lead. Is that connected here? I mean, tell me what frontline space to lead means to you. I think it's a really fascinating concept. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. So backing up one layer, when we think about humanity, we got our law of thirds that we kind of talked about and just kind of touched on just for a second. We kind of put people in two buckets of those who want to consume and criticize for the benefit of themselves, and those who want to create and cultivate for the benefit of others. And I think that there's a lot of people who want to create and cultivate for the benefit of others. And so what's interesting is that in cities that have less than 16% poverty rates, we see a lot of economic boom, and there's a lot of skyscrapers, and we see different kind of stuff, and there's a lot of businesses, and there's a lot of economic opportunity. And so that's good. But in cities that have more than that, like ours, that has a plus 20% poverty rate, instead of that, we don't have that big economic boom, but when we have a really awesome opportunity to serve and love our neighbors, and that creates a lot of frontline spacing, because the reality is that in some of these cities, they don't need everybody trying to serve these different kind of things, like the poverty rate's so poor, different kind of stuff. And so there's not a way where you can actually do good with part of your life that actually is in that space. Like, there's not actually room for
that's
everybody.
Really interesting.
And here there's enough room. And what's really interesting is especially when you talk about young 20-somethings that want to make a difference someplace, we tell them, like, man, if you want to make a difference, like if you're living in New York and you're thinking, I want to make a difference in homelessness, well, there's 1,000 homeless shelters. Like you could come to Memphis, there's 4, and you could actually, like in 10 years, you could probably solve homelessness in Memphis. Like somebody could, like if they wanted to. And there's frontline space where people are going, hey, come in, get involved. We'll help you. We'll help you do this. And so, whereas in other cities, no one's going to listen to you at not 22, 52, whatever age. And even if you have $1 billion, like Robin Hood Fund, they're not going to listen to you and go, well, we'll all work together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas in here, the frontline space is pretty cool with that.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And that's probably, at least in part, the vibe and tenor that I've picked up on since moving here. Right. I mean, they're just, Memphis seems to me to be one of those cities that if you love her, she will love you back.
Heck
right.
yeah.
But you can't stand on the sidelines and expect Memphis to love you back. And that's not unique solely to Memphis, but boy, it is especially true here. And I have loved just being able to get out and feel and experience the city and understand the people like you that are doing really good work.
Well, thanks, man. Neither one of us from here, and both of us fell in love with this place here. And that seems to be the common thing. I mean, even like our friends Ron and Mackenzie, right? Neither one of them from here, moved here, totally fell in love with this place. And
that's
so
right.
that seems to be common for a lot of places, or a lot of people around Memphis. And so it's really, really cool that we see this over and over again.
Speaking of that, you mentioned a hat earlier. I know the Choose 901 merch supply is always booming. I've got a shirt. I should have worn it for this interview or conversation, but it says, "Now is the time, Memphis is the place."
Right.
And every time I wear it, I get compliments on it, and people, it sparks conversation. But I'm looking at our timer. We've got just a couple minutes left. Make the case. Why is now the time? Why is Memphis the place?
Yeah, we started using that probably in 2012 as a saying.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I think David Montague said it to one of his recruiting classes at an MTR event, Memphis Teacher Residency event. And I was like, man, that's got to be on a T-shirt and that kind of and what I think it creates and compels the people is those people who are looking for a place to make a difference. Those people who are whatever. It is a rallying cry. It is a motivational call to action that moves people to think like, what, I want to make a difference. What should I do? Whatever. And then they just feel like, hey, now, like it puts it into the present. Like, because so much just stuff you and I talking about, especially at the beginning, was like, what is this preferred future?
Yeah.
Preferred futures are created with present action, period. Right. Period. And so you put it in this thing, right? Whatever. And then we're just unashamed and unequivocal, just that Memphis is the place to put that energy. And of course, we rally around that energy around is really at the core root of everything is loving your neighbor as you love yourself, right? Yeah. It's like, hey, now's the time to figure out, and that looks differently for all sorts of people, whatever your gifting is, whatever your resources are, whatever your time level is, whatever your passions are, and people's needs. Like you can't, loving the homeless person and loving a person that has 6 kids as a single parent is totally different, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and they have totally different needs. And so understanding that kind of stuff is, but also it's not just the investment, it's the enjoyment. And I think that's part of what we have.
I love that.
Memphis is a great place to just go enjoy the Grizzlies, enjoy the parks, enjoy the restaurants, enjoy the fact that we're a big city amenities, a hometown feel, enjoy the best sunset in the United States. Inside the United States, on that middle coast, looking over the Mississippi River, like go enjoy this place, invest and enjoy. You can't get more bang for your time here. You can't make a bigger difference and enjoy a better city anywhere in the world than Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh man, I love it. We just did some work for the Chamber of Commerce here on the side. I didn't know. That's great. It's great. So I just listened to this episode. John's got me hooked. That is a common characteristic. People spend time with John Carroll. They're like, I'm in. what do I do now? Shameless plug time. Give us the website. Where do I go? How do I find out more information? How do I get involved?
Man, well, thanks for asking for that. So our organization, City Leadership, cityleadership.org. You can find my name, you can find my email. It's not hard to find my phone number. I mean, you're welcome to text me directly if somebody wants to get a hold of me. If you want to see our campaigns, if you go there, everything's linked from there. So I could name them all. But if you just start there, you can find everything we're working on. There's other things I wish we were working on. I wish we had double the budget and we'd be doing other stuff as well. But the whole purpose is to recruit, develop, and catalyze leaders to create a growing, improving, and more loving Memphis. And you can learn all about how we're doing that in Memphis. And man, hopefully you can find a place or join us in this place to do that too.
You already know this, but I'm in, and I love it.
I know you are.
I can't wait to find some things to work on together. Thanks for being here today, John. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me.